Hello everyone, Alastair here on Tuesday, which means it's time for another In Conversation. And my guest this week is a photographer. It could be said that his studio is the landscape of northern Norway. As he himself says, my heart is in northern Norway. There is opportunity here. People live out their life stories here. The people, the light, the power and energy of the landscape, nothing can compare. He is Trym Ivar Bergsmo. Trym, welcome to In Conversation, and I hope I didn't mispronounce your name.
Very well, you did perfect. Thank you so lot, Alastair. I'm very happy to be here with you.
Thank you. It's great to see you, Trym. Now, I just tell you, I'm talking to you now from the north of France. And we've been having a heat wave here for the last 5 or 6 days. It's been very, very hot. But I really enjoyed looking at your photos of the cold, icy, frozen landscapes that you take. That's made me feel a whole lot better. And talking of landscapes, are you at home now? Or is this your home we're seeing you in, or is this your office, or where are you now, Trym?
Actually, we have a summer house, or in Norway we call it hytte. It's a very traditional Norwegian thing, and we spend the whole summer here. So I'm in my little room where I have many windows and where I can sit and work and look straight out into the nature.
And looking out of your window, do you see? I imagine you're looking at mountains and field and sky, and because that's the kind of things that your photos are of. Is that what you look at when you look out the window?
You're absolutely right. I'm looking at right outside. There is a little, some small birch trees, and then there is a shoreline. We are a little bit up, so I'm looking down at the sea. In the backgrounds, we have mountains, which with various peaks and shapes and forms. And actually, at this moment, the sun is behind it. So I had to put curtains in front of the window to keep the sunlight outside.
Because are you far north enough to get the midnight sun, or
Absolutely. Not? Yes.
You do? Oh wow! Wow.
Yeah. In a way, I live in the eastern part of Lofoten Islands, and the whole of Lofoten is above the Arctic Circle. So yeah, we do have the midnight sun.
Wonderful. Well, Trym, before we talk about your photography, we should say that it wasn't your first choice of career. That I think you started out wanting to be an economist. Is that right?
That's right. My father had a little company, and my grandmother told me, Trym, it might be a good idea for you to become to learn some more about economics, so you can help your father. And at that point, I didn't have a specific idea about what I wanted to do. So I thought, yeah, maybe she's right.
So you're a good boy listening to your grandmother.
Exactly. Until I went to Oslo to study and realized that I had to work and study at the same time because it was difficult to get into the school. And I worked in a photography shop. And at that time in Oslo, there was 3 really good galleries, photography galleries. Since I was already interested in photography, I would go to all exhibitions. And, my interest in photography grew drastically during that year. And my interest...
And were you taking... Yeah, sorry.
No, and my interest for making, accounting programs and learning all these details and everything, it kind of fell as the other one was rising.
And were you taking photographs at that time? Did you own a camera?
Yes, and my mother actually had a small black and dark room. So I learned a few years before, how to operate in the darkroom and, with the film and everything, of course, manual. So I was into it, but I think it was more like this was just too advanced for me, to be able to think in terms of making it into a living.
That's I've met a lot of photographers in my life, but honestly, Trym, you're the first one I've met whose mother had a darkroom. I think that's just fantastic. I mean, what a great mother. I mean, was she must have been very into photography if she had a darkroom.
Yeah, she was, and she was very creative, and I mean, she still is. She's getting in her 80s now, but she has always been very creative. So she was very, when I decided to start studying photography, she was very supporting. My father was a bit more reluctant, but she was really, she thought that was a great idea.
Yeah, that's nice to have that support. So having made the decision to become a photographer, you took yourself off to Santa Barbara, where you did a Bachelor of Arts degree in photography. And I mean, why not? But was there a particular reason why you wanted to go to the west coast of the United States, or was it just on a whim?
I would say it was a combination. Because my mother had been to visit a friend who lived in California, and she lived in Santa Barbara. And there was a party, and she was there, and she met somebody who worked at the school and was invited to the school. And she came home with this incredibly great catalog, and that was ready at the age of 16, when I was 16. And I thought, wow, that would be something. And then I kind of just forgot about it, because I thought it was just too far-fetched. Yeah, but when I was in Oslo that year, I met somebody at an exhibition who actually applied and was accepted to this school. And that's when I realized that maybe there is a chance for me as well. So I went home and I got the papers and I applied, and that's how I actually got into this school. So it was the only school I applied to, and that's how I actually started.
I think we have a James, a picture of Trym looking like he's having a great time being a student. Yeah. Oh, don't we miss those days? But no, because while you were the thing that really impressed me when I was reading into that time when you were studying was the kind of people that you were meeting and the kind of photographers you were meeting at workshops. I mean, just to name a few, and anybody who's into photography will recognize a lot of these names: Ernst Haas, Arnold Newman, Yusuf Karsh, Mary Ellen Mark, Eugene Richards, Michael Kenner. I mean, those are all, that's a sort of an Academy Award-winning list of great 20th century photographers. I mean, that must have been wonderful meeting these people and actually talking to them.
Yeah, that was. I think I think they inspired me continuously for 10 years, and they still do now. It's like every time I read about them or see something, kind of things comes up again that I experienced, because I worked on an internship with the Friends of Photography in San Francisco, eller Carmel. And during that time, part of my job during these 6 months, that summer season, was to make, to pick up these guys at the airport and, make sure they had, they were brought to the hotel and hanging around, and just trying to serve them and, make their stay pleasant. But that was, as a part of this, I could also stay in some of the lectures and, in the sessions that they had with the students.
Oh, fantastic!
And yeah, that was, I think, I think it was the most learning experience that I could ever dream of, in terms of hearing them, seeing them, meeting them. They were such great people. I mean, they were really, really, really nice people. And their work, I couldn't talk, for hours after some of the presentations, because I was so overwhelmed by the strength of their work and the presence of their work.
Yeah, I'm jealous, very jealous. I mean, a lot of those names I read out of people I used to look very closely at their work when I was a student myself, but I never got to actually meet them or sit in on any of their lectures or any of the workshops. So I envy you that, Trym. Yeah, I envy you that. So you came back to Norway, and And let's talk about this big project you did once you got back to Norway, the Sami project. I mean, I read in an interview you gave, you said that it was probably the hardest project you've ever undertaken. And I'd love to know more about it, but maybe you could start by explaining to us, just in case anybody who doesn't know, explain who the Sami people are.
Yeah, it's only, if I'm not mistaken, then the only indigenous group of people that we have in Norway, and they kind of live in Russia, Finland, Sweden, and Norway. And the majority of them, I think there is about 60,000 which are defining themselves as the Sami people, and you have different kinds of professions related to that culture, but what we identify as the Sami people very much is their lives with the reindeer animals. They are nomads and they're herders. They own their deers and they follow them throughout the year and stay with them. And they live in the northern part of Scandinavia and Norway. And I'm very attracted to this part of the country because it's barren, exposed, it's high altitude. It's a very rough and very, the energy of this landscape is very haunting. You really want to go there, and you get filled up with this fantastic nature feeling. So
yes.
I was very curious to learn more about these people and their culture, because minorities have always been an interest to me, and to know more about the Indians in South America than the people of the north in my own country felt strange.
Yes. Yeah.
So my whole project was initiated by myself as an exploration of their culture and what their life was all about.
And how difficult was it to be accepted by them, or for them how relaxed were they about having you around taking pictures of them?
Well, this is the main thing, how do you get accepted? How do you promote? How do you manage to get into the community? Because to be able to come to a situation where they will kind of let you move around freely and be a part of their everyday life. It took me about half a year actually for me, because I'm a shy person. I don't want to impose, but
impose.
impose. So I'm sensitive to this, and I think a lot of photographers are, and I think a lot of photographers are not.
Absolutely.
But that's how I feel. So it's a long story, but I was actually told by some friends to see if you could meet this British filmmaker. Two different friends I had who was making a documentary for BBC actually, and then I met him, and he was very kind and nice, and we had a great conversation, and I was very inspired. And then at the end of the conversation, his friend walks in, and he was a reindeer herder and a reindeer owner, and I could speak to him in Norwegian, and we were leaving at the same time, and he asked me, and I had been to Kautokeino, which is one of the capitals of the Sami reindeer people, and during a whole Easter, because they have a festival. That's when they marry, that's when they have competitions. It's a cultural important part. And they said very directly, so what are you doing here? And I realized I had to be very quick, because I saw in him a possibility to actually get access to this.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm making a documentary project and I'm going to make a book. I just said, and I have been thinking, I didn't know that until I said it. And then he looked at me a few seconds and he said, maybe I can help you.
Great.
and that was actually how we came, to get to know each other. And then eventually he invited me to come with them in the fall when they were gathering the reindeers after on the summer grazing area.
Yeah.
They were getting ready to move south again.
So you spent several seasons with them?
Yeah, I had planned to stay for 1.5 seasons, but it's like with every project, 1.5 years. Once you get into it, you learn so much more, and you realize you just have to keep going. And after 3 years, I felt that I could finally conclude. I had spent something like 9 months altogether with them.
And you were so you were living with them, because they live in these lavu tents, don't they? The Sami people. I mean, is that what they were doing? They were because they're nomadic. They
absolutely.
And you were living with them in the tents.
Yeah. And also, but they also have homes. They have one home because they move from inland to the coast.
Mm-hmm.
And stay at the coast in the summer and into the fall, and then they move the animals back into the central part of Finnmark, the northern part. This is in the fall.
Right.
And they have a home in the winter, and they have a home by the coast.
Okay.
In between those months when they move, when they're on the move, and when they're with the herds or herding, then they live in lavos and tents. They have different variations. But I remember particularly one trip which lasted for 10 days in the spring. And you kind of wear your clothes for that whole period, and you just put a sleeping bag on top. You take off your shoes, but you stay in your down jacket or whatever you wear, and your fur hat.
Mm-hmm.
So your look is a bit still for 10 days in the, but just to experience that life in the spring with the cold nights where they would move with the animals, because the animals cannot move during the day. The snow gets too soft.
Okay.
They sleep during the day, and then at night they would move with the animals.
Okay. Because I mean, there's one of the photos we're showing right now, and these photos that we're showing whilst you're talking. The one thing I really get from them, apart from the fact it's they're lovely photos, is you could just feel the cold. It just looks so damn cold. I mean, what was it like working in sub-zero conditions for a photographer? I mean, it must have been terribly difficult, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was actually very hard, because when it's -40, most of your gear starts freezing. So I only had one camera, a Leica M6 that worked in these kind of conditions, and to wait for, like we did this one particular day, we had to wait for 4 hours before they came into the corral. It was on the border of what is safe in terms of getting frostbites and really getting some wounds from the cold. And changing film in a small camera with your bare hand, when they froze to the camera, so I had to pull them off the camera and things, and the film cracks. So technically, a challenge. But if your equipment is very easy to use, like with this camera that I was using, then you can more or less just concentrate on what's going on. And yeah, this is what I looked like during those days.
But the Leica camera, it's a rangefinder camera. Yeah, I mean, did you have to take your gloves off to focus? I mean, I can't imagine how you could focus with gloves on.
I had 3 pair of gloves.
Yeah.
I had a thin leather one on the inside, which makes it possible to operate with your fingers. And then I had a wool glove, and on top of that I had the Gore-Tex one.
Okay.
So I would take off until I had the leather one, and quickly just take the pictures, and then put on the other gloves again to remain.
Right.
That was the only way I could do it.
You know, I'm sort of quietly pleased to hear that the one camera that did work was a Leica, because you know, they have a certain reputation. It's kind of nice to know that you know, they didn't let you down when you needed them.
No.
Actually, talking of Leicas, I see that you, or I read somewhere that you own a monochrome Leica. Is
Yes,
that correct?
that's
And I was
right.
just, you know, for myself, on behalf of people watching, were just wondering why because they're extremely expensive, those Leica monochrome cameras, and why would you, and they only shoot black and white, hence the name, why would you choose to do that rather than shoot on just a regular digital camera and then convert it into black and white in post-production? What's the advantage of having a specific Leica monochrome camera that will only shoot black and white?
I think for me there is two different reasons. I'm sorry about the flopping of the light, but
it's okay.
Yeah,
it's okay. We're listening to you. We're listening to your words. It's fine.
Yeah, there is two reasons. One is that when the gradations and the tones and everything that I have in the monochrome is really, really beautiful, and it appears differently when you shoot actually in black and white than converting them. The tones are different, so you get the way I see it, you get a larger variety tonality. The different tones within the different shades,
right,
from white to black, is more detailed.
Okay.
And the structure of the image in terms of when you process it, how you can go into the different parts of the curves, and the lighter parts and the darker parts, and it's more flexible in a way. So this is for me one reason, the technical part. But I think the most important part is that when you photograph black and white, I'm sure you can relate to that. When I photograph, my whole way of thinking as a photographer, the whole way of thinking about an image change, because it's so much more graphical. And somehow my formats changed a little bit when I work in color. But when I work in black and white, I end up with a 2 to 3 formats, the 3 to 2 formats, the standard format. I cannot get out of this. But I work in color. I work in squares, and you know, more a little bit extended squares.
But was it the project you did with the Sami people? Was it obvious to you that from the beginning that was going to be, because you could have shot that in black and white? I mean, a lot of people might have chosen to shoot it in black and white, but for you it was a color project? Or?
Yeah, I think it was actually my father used to go to this area a lot, so he brought me up there, and I think I was so impressed by the colors, and their clothing is fantastic. It's so colorful, their jackets, and you know, the texture and the color of their dresses and everything. So to photograph that in black and white would lose for me some of that the beauty of the aesthetics, which is, I must say, quite important. It's really, I'm sorry.
Yeah, don't worry, it's live TV.
Yeah, to get the blue, like we saw, the blue color.
Yeah,
it's very
beautiful
important to get that the actual feeling of the area.
Yes.
The quality.
Do you? Sorry. Yeah. Trym, do you? Because a few weeks ago we had a photographer on who said that if she has to spend more than a minute on post-production, she'd forget the picture. And are you a big on post-production, or are you more like that, where you just make a few tiny tweaks?
Yeah, I do not, or I do not. I make my image when I photograph. It's when I finished my photographing and when I pushed the shutter. But it's a raw file. I use the raw files, and to get the raw file to express what I felt and what I saw it takes some work in one of the converters. So I do. I cannot just say that I spend 1 minute. That would not be true. It takes more than that. It can go. It can be anything from 4 to 4 hours. If it's very difficult, but that's very rare.
Yeah.
Usually, with experience, you can do it in 10-15 minutes.
But this is one thing that for me is one of the big changes about that digital photography has created, is that the ratio between the taking of the picture and what you do with the picture afterwards is almost, I would say it's almost 50-50 now. Whereas in analog, to me, the taking of the picture was maybe 70-75%, and what you did afterwards in the darkroom was, I mean, I'm generalizing, but now, to me, the what you do with the picture after you've taken it is part of taking the picture in a way, I quite enjoy spending. I find it quite soothing, quite relaxing. I spend quite a lot of time messing around in post-production. I quite enjoy it. It's nice to hear you do too. Yeah, but also you, apart from photography, you're very involved in creating audio-visual shows in collaboration with other artists, with musicians and writers and dancers. And it seems you really enjoy working on collaborative, creative projects where your photography is just part of a performance. Is that something you're doing a lot more of?
Yeah, I really enjoy that. As you probably know as well, to be a photographer is a lonely thing.
Yep.
And it should be. It has to be in a way, but because it's a part of the thing of getting into it and getting into the depth of creating images. But I think that when there is a chance to collaborate with others, I really enjoy it so much, because it's so lonely, and just the sensation of talking to somebody else in a creative process and working together, it's so rewarding.
Yeah, no, I agree. In fact, it's so rewarding that I'm going to show a video clip that I particularly enjoyed of yours, and in collaboration with some rather lovely musicians. Let's have a look at this. So Trym, I chose that particular video clip because I think we really see how clean and minimalist your photography is, and also because of how well the right music and the right images can sit together and create emotion. Such a strong partnership, music and images. And you gather your wife is a cellist. Is that correct?
Yes. We have recently worked on a project together for the first time. We've been married for more than 20 years, and we finally got a chance to collaborate. It's a piece that was made for an art center in Lofoten. And that was it was really great. The minute we just had to figure out how to divide the responsibilities, and once that was done, then everything worked great.
Well, the result is beautiful. Yeah, it's really gorgeous. Trym, this will make you happy. Katie in Parkland has sent in a question, except it's not a question. She says, "Your pictures look like paintings, just amazing and just beautiful. Thank you for going to these places and showing the world." It's lovely, isn't it? Thank you, Katie.
Nice. Thank you very much, Katie.
Thank you, Katie. Whilst we're on questions, let's I got to hit you with another one. Shelton in Silver Spring, Maryland says, "What is the best advice you have ever been given on photography? And what advice do you give amateur photographers on taking good pictures?" Now, I know you run workshops and things up in the Lofoten Islands in the north of Norway, so you must get a lot of amateur photographers or people who want to improve their photography. So what do you tell them?
I learned one thing myself, which I've been thinking about a lot, and that is to move close to your subject. I mean, if it's a person, if it's a tree, if it's a landscape, move into it. Connect with it. Don't step back and use a zoom lens. And if it's possible to go forward in a way into the subject, towards the subject. I think that often creates a different tension between you and whatever you're photographing.
And do you remember a particular piece of good advice that you were given? Maybe when you were studying in Santa Barbara, all those great photographers you met. Is there any particular piece of advice that sticks with you?
Yeah, I got so many, and I just saw some. But I think Ernst Haas, he said something when I visited him, and he said, "Trym, I can photograph campaigns, for different big companies. But I can also photograph a face in Japan, enjoying the spring. And to me, photography is all about communication. It's about making an image that communicates. And I think that in these days where everybody is being so specialized and we're very hardcore, we must not forget that we make images that's supposed to communicate around us, and not only other photographers, but with with the world. And if we can do that, I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, I would absolutely agree on that. That's good advice. And from the great Ernst Haas, who was one of my heroes when I was 18, 19 and studying. I mean, he was a color guy, and he did a lot of movement as well in his photographs. There was a lot of, like as you do. Yeah, absolutely.
I was very inspired by him.
Yeah. Was he nice? Was he a nice guy?
He was very friendly.
Okay, because sometimes you realize you talk to somebody about a hero of yours and they say, "Oh, terrible guy."
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he was okay. So when do you think, Trym? When do you think your connection with the landscape really began? Because you are to me, you're so part of the landscape you live in. When did that actual awareness of your surroundings come to you as a child?
I had a father who he worked a lot, but he spent his free time, his Saturdays and Sundays, and part there, yeah, there he is. And
he just looks so wonderful in that photo. It's a lovely photo.
Yeah, this is it. Now he's in his best. This is when this is what he loved the most. And there is a fire, and we made coffee, and we had been walking a whole day fishing, and to be with him, then I felt very close to him, and I felt also very close to nature through his interest for nature, because he was very observant, and he saw so much. And he would say that, oh, look at this, oh, look at that, Trym, oh, look at this, oh, look at the light, look at the trees, look at those lichens, oh, look at this, look at this, look at this. And he was so enthusiastic. But then he could also just be there and, like in front of the fire, relaxed, cracking jokes, telling stories about his life. All these things that we as children, young people, we need to feel that, what's the word, their true personalities and their true joys and love in life. And for him, he became a small boy, when he was out in nature, and he was really, this, very, what's going on. He was like a child seeing the world for the first time, and that, of course, influenced me very much. And since I grew up in an extremely beautiful area, it's not far from where I live now, I could enjoy this every day. And my father, he had the views in different directions, depending on the day, the time of the day. He would go, we had dinner and we could see the sun set into the room, breakfast, on the other side, where we could actually sit and see the sun rise.
Yeah.
He would organize his life around, in the direction of light.
Wonderful, wonderful. Yeah, you had great parents, Trym.
I was lucky.
Your mother with the dark room and your father with the passion for the landscape. It's not surprising you do what you do, but that's just great. But at some point in all this happiness in your childhood, you had an illness, and that left you with sight in only one eye. What happened? Well, how old were you? And
actually, this happened when after I came back from California when I was studying. It happened during the last year, half a year, when I was there. But I was used to just, if you didn't feel well, you would, go for a hike and, stay out and come back in 6 hours, and you will feel much better.
Yeah.
So I was trying that, for a long time, and it didn't really work well. So eventually, when I came home, it just got worse, and it appeared to be a rare autoimmune illness. So my immune system collapsed.
Okay.
And I spent almost, half a year in a hospital.
Whoa.
And when I came out, I was in a wheelchair, and I had to start, walking and all these things all over again.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then afterwards, this illness created, several problems. But I survived, and at one point I didn't think I would survive.
Oh God, it was that serious? Wow.
It was rough. So the eyesight came, in the middle of the 90s.
Yeah.
About the same time as I'm also having big problems with my heart, starting to have it first.
But were they related, the two things?
Yeah, they actually all appear from the same illness.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it, when your immune system collapses, it kind of attacks your body, and if it's not stopped, you will get very sick from your own, system.
Right. Yes.
So yes. My eyes and my lungs and my, a few organs, and also the heart was affected by this.
Good heavens! Wow. The only reason I brought it up was because you're a photographer, and I'm just wondering how, with one eye less, your visual your perception, your periphery must have changed. And I'm just wondering if that, because you'd already started on your photographic journey when this happened, and was it? I mean, did you think, well, I won't be a photographer now, or I mean, did it change things a lot for you?
Yeah, in a way it did, because I was used to working with both eyes, of course. You have camera in front of one eye and then you check with the other eye, what's going on.
Exactly, yeah.
Especially when you work with moving objects, like people and situations. So that, kind of had to change. I was working with the landscape before this, but I became slower, and it became more difficult to do that kind of work where you need both your eyes at the same time.
Yeah.
So I do a little bit I do still do that kind of photography, but it's not so easy when you only have one eye. But I moved from, because it's my right eye that I cannot see.
Yeah.
I moved the camera, to the left.
Yeah.
And I don't think about it today. It's you get used to everything. I think you get used to so many. We can adopt.
Yeah. It's amazing how the brain can readapt itself to this to a situation. It's just wonderful, isn't it? Absolutely amazing. Yeah. So Jasper, when you go out into the landscape, and maybe James, we could start pulling up some landscape photos. When you go out into the landscape, do you go out with a plan in your head, or do you try not to have a plan in your head and maybe just think, oh, just see what happens? Are you the kind of photographer who likes to plan ahead and you kind of know what you're going to be going for?
No, I think it's more that I go to a certain area, and I know that this area, either I haven't been there before, I think it's quite interesting and I want to explore it, or I have a project and I think that in this area I will find something, or I think I will find something. But I've been in this situation where I've been looking for things so hard that I don't manage to see what was there.
Yeah, I know that.
No, exactly. Yeah. I think this thing every photographer knows about.
Yeah.
So I used to say to my students, finish thinking before you go out. Know where you're going. Yeah. And then when you're out, you just be there and do your photography, because then it's too late to go somewhere else because you're already there. So you might as well just enjoy it and be there and see what's there.
I think one of the things that I don't know whether you find this with your students, but one of the hardest things to get across to photographers is that it's a waiting game, photography. It's a waiting game, and especially landscape photography. I mean, you must spend a lot of time just thinking, if I wait another couple of hours, the light will be so much better here or whatever. So it's a waiting game, and I think we live in a world where we do everything to make sure we don't have to wait anymore, and that's especially with digital, where everything's so fast. That must be a problem.
Well, of course, but there is an element of if you get to know an area well, if you really know an area well, and I know my area pretty well. I know the northern part of Norway quite well. So I would say that if you come to visit me in August and you want to photograph some nice sunsets with seascapes, I would say, okay, if the weather is like this, we go there. If it's from the southwest, we will go here, because I know more or less at different times of the year where the conditions for photographing would be good depending on the weather and how the light will be, and what kind of.
I'm sorry to interrupt. The picture we have on the screen now is that just blew me away. That you must have looked through your camera and gone, wow, that is amazing. Yeah. I mean, that really is. I mean, and I've seen that. I mean, it's that weather can be like that up there, but it doesn't. It moves very quickly, doesn't it? It changes quickly.
Absolutely.
You must have had a good feeling at the end of that day.
Actually, I was on top of a boat going from an island into the mainland.
Okay.
And once this, it was like starting to change these gales, and I saw things were going on, and I was just making sure I had a clear view to this area, and I was shooting constantly for this whole particular trip, and it was like a big physical exercise to get ashore once the ferry arrived.
Okay. Yeah, it's a beautiful picture. It's a beautiful picture. Got a question for you here, Trym. Gail in Seattle says, I noticed the movement in the Sami pictures. It seemed to capture the herds and that they are nomads. Was that a deliberate attempt to show their culture using the
motion,
the slow shutter speed? Was it slow shutter speed, or were you panning? I don't know. Whatever. Creating movement.
Yeah, no. That's one of the things I really understood and learned was that when I was there, being with them, everything is constantly moving. The animals are moving, the people are moving, we are moving with animals. It's motion is the word, and to make these photographs without that feeling of motion would not be to portray them, to portray their culture and what they're doing in the right way. So it was deliberately choosing all kinds of techniques to get that feeling of motion.
I think it's really effective given the subject of constant movement of a people. Yeah, it makes sense to think about that. Yeah. His question from Art Kramer. Art is a regular on Tuesdays from Tucson, Arizona. Hi, Art. He says, back in my black and white photography days, the darkroom work was the most fun, time-consuming, and creative. Now with digital, the romance of the darkroom is gone. Yeah, well, I kind of agree with that. I don't know about you, Trym.
I totally agree.
Yeah, you agree too. Yeah.
And I have a darkroom, packed away somewhere, and I'm seriously considering, refurbishing. The concept. So I understand what he means. I can agree to that.
Yeah, I miss getting my hands wet, and I miss the smell. The smell on my clothes of fixer or whatever. Yeah. But yeah. So what's coming up for you next, Trym? We got some projects. I know we're all living in a bit of a strange time. I guess the workshops that you run have probably had to stop, I guess, for the rest of this year.
Yeah, you're right.
What are you planning? Are you doing some more audio visuals?
I'm actually planning a book or a couple of books.
Okay, so great.
If I'm not able to run the workshops, or even if I'm able to run the workshops, I would like to. I've been collecting material for maybe 1 or 2 or maybe even 3 books. So I will stop working on that and seriously finish some of it. Within the next half a year or next year. And then of course there are other projects, and I'm fortunate I have assignments. In English the word is called, company called me and they want me to have decorations for the walls. Or they want
design company or decoration?
Also commissions.
Yeah, a commission. Sorry. Okay. Yeah.
So good. I have a few of that, so I need to. So I can work with this, and so I'm very fortunate to have different feeds to support myself.
Trym, can I get in another question?
Yes.
Okay. You'll like this one from Linda. Linda says, I am planning an African photography safari next year. Good for you, Linda. What type of camera would you suggest I get for this?
I think that don't make it too complicated would be my advice, because it's the quality of the cameras today are so good. So it's better just to have something that works and works in a good way than buying something which has a lot of opportunities and possibilities. Because then you get stuck in the technique, and you don't want to think too much about that when you're out photographing. You want to be able to concentrate on doing the safari and enjoying it and making the photographs as you go along.
Keep it simple, keep it light, probably, and you can get amazing zoom lenses now.
Exactly.
I mean, with incredible reach on them.
Exactly. About 35 to 200 or something like that.
Yeah.
That's really a very good working area.
And if I may say, Linda, shoot raw files when you're there, because if you've got a little tiger in your picture, if you've got raw files, you've got enough information to make it a big tiger in your picture. So
that's very important.
Would you? Yeah. Okay. Would you agree? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's very important. Don't buy too heavy gear and shoot raw files, because it will change.
Always shoot raw
files.
Yes. Yeah. I quite agree. We're getting some wonderful dramatic lighting on you, Trym. Like a Caravaggio painting. Really, it's wonderful. Trym, we're out of time, and I'm going to just say really a huge thank you to you for sharing some of your world with us. It's been a real pleasure talking to you, and I'd be very happy if one day, because I know you have work on Viking ships, on many of the Viking ships. And it would be lovely to see you on board and have a look at the work with you. By the way, I just remembered what I think you on the new Viking expedition ships. You're going to be producing some work for that. Is that correct?
I think so. Yes.
You're not sure about that? Okay.
Because there's been with the corona and everything, there is a bit of things on top of each other. I don't have the full overview, but but you have the wonderful catalogs that you made with the artwork on the ships.
The artwork catalog, yeah. And you can also see it on the Viking.TV platform now. It's there as well. Yeah. Trym, it just remains for me to thank you from the bottom of my heart. Thank you so much, and enjoy that. It looks like you've got the setting sun with you out there now.
I do. It's setting actually right now.
All right. I wish you all the best. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Thanks for inviting me.
Thank you. Now, I know a lot of you out there are keen photographers, and I hope that, like me, looking at Trym's amazing landscapes will inspire you to grab your cameras and get out there and get creative. As the man said, it's not what you see, but it's the way you see it. So until next week, thank you so much for watching and being with me, and I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday with another guest. Thank you and goodbye.